My husband had long abandoned his duties, leaving me to bear the overwhelming weight of caring for his sick father while managing all the household chores. He spent his nights out until the early hours, contributing barely enough to cover our basic needs. Though I had once been passionate about my nursing career, I left my job to focus solely on his father's care. And now, here he was again, demanding more money. "We can't afford to live on this," I told him. "You're supposed to handle our finances within the budget, but there's only so much I can do. How can you expect more from me when you contribute nothing and ignore everything I'm sacrificing?" He responded with disdain. "All you do is waste our money. You're just a parasite." "How dare you say that?" I shot back. "If I left, you wouldn't survive a day. Maybe you should be trying to keep me, not threatening me." With a smug grin, he waved divorce papers in front of me, declaring he was ready to end things whenever. Tossing the papers at me, he stormed off. I picked them up from the floor and stared at them. A sad smile crossed my face as I read the words, "Petition for divorce." If he thought I would crumble, he was wrong. I had already imagined a life without him. With a mix of pity and resolve, I dialed my lawyer. "I'm Kayla. Once, I was a nurse at a private hospital, a demanding job that I loved. Caring for others fulfilled me deeply. But now, it was time to reclaim the life I had neglected. When I first married Vincent, things went well despite our busy lives. But everything changed when his father's health took a severe downturn. His father, his only remaining family, needed constant care. Vincent, concerned for him, asked me to step in, promising to make up for my lost income by working harder and shouldering more household responsibilities. Reluctantly, I agreed, knowing how much Vincent cared for his father. We moved in with him, and at first, Vincent seemed committed. We tightened our finances but made it work. However, over time, his promises faded, and he withdrew. His financial contributions shrank, and he grew increasingly absent, leaving me to handle everything. With no job and half the income, the financial strain became unbearable. I found myself trying to stretch every dollar, driving for miles just to find cheaper groceries. Meals became simple, especially when Vincent wasn't around. What once felt like a manageable living situation now felt impossible. Vincent spent his earnings freely, leaving me to shoulder all the financial burdens. Life became a constant struggle. Luxuries, like new clothes or haircuts, were out of the question. When the financial strain became too much, I asked Vincent for more money. "I already gave you money," he snapped. "Yes, but it's less than last month," I replied. "I can't make ends meet with this." He scoffed. "Managing the budget is your responsibility. But it's too tight. Since I quit my job, we've been barely getting by." I pleaded. "Please, we need more for the household. It's my money, and I'll spend it how I want." He retorted. "Just because you used to be a nurse, you think you're important? You're not contributing anything. You're just a parasite living off me. So, keep quiet and do as I say." His harsh words left me speechless, and his cold attitude grew worse with every conversation about our finances. I began dipping into my savings, and each month became a struggle to keep our finances from falling apart, all while enduring his verbal abuse. Yet, through it all, my father-in-law was a source of solace. Despite his own suffering, he was always grateful for even the smallest acts of care. Knowing the financial strain we were under, he even offered his pension to help. His kindness was the only emotional support I had, and it gave me strength to continue, holding on to the warmth of his appreciation when everything else felt bleak. But those brief moments of peace were fleeting. After nearly 3 years of caring for him, my father-in-law passed away unexpectedly. That day marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I had gone to the store a bit further than usual to take advantage of a sale. Though I felt uneasy leaving him alone, he reassured me, smiling gently and urging me not to worry. His calm words soothed my nerves, and I left with a sense of peace, thinking he would be fine. Tragically, while I was away, he collapsed and passed away. The guilt of not being there weighed heavily on me, and I couldn't stop replaying the decision to leave him behind. I wept for hours, unable to escape the regret. Amid my grief, I knew I couldn't let it consume me. I needed to focus on making funeral arrangements. Vincent, as the chief mourner, seemed more concerned with appearances than actual duties, leaving most of the arrangements to me. Given the support my father-in-law had shown me, I chose to handle everything on my own, unwilling to risk Vincent neglecting any part of it. Throwing myself into the planning offered a temporary distraction from my sadness. It was exhausting, but it helped pull me from the depths of grief, even if only for a little while. Vincent barked orders, only to sit in front of the TV moments later, while I focused on honoring my father-in-law's memory. At the funeral, many guests expressed their condolences to Vincent, unaware of the reality of our situation. They assumed he had been the one to care for his father, saying things like, "It must have been difficult to prepare everything so quickly," or, "He was lucky to have such a devoted son." Their well-meaning words stung. Knowing the truth, I kept a composed face. Despite feeling exhausted, it wasn't difficult at all. I responded, hiding the pain. He was like a father to me too, so I did my best for him. I tried to hold on to the belief that my care had brought him comfort in his final years, hoping he found peace. Vincent mingled with the guests, putting on a polite face and exchanging pleasantries. His charm irritated me, knowing he had done nothing to care for his father in his final days or prepare for the funeral. Behind the facade, the truth was buried, and I alone carried the weight of both grief and responsibility. I couldn't forget the sadness in my father-in-law's eyes on the nights Vincent stayed out late, never speaking to him. Now that he was gone, Vincent's pretense of being a devoted son became unbearable. My disgust for him grew with each passing day, and it was difficult to shake, even after the funeral. With my father-in-law gone, the one thing that had kept me tolerating my strained marriage was gone as well. The thought of divorce became more frequent in my mind, but I was torn. I felt torn between disgust and uncertainty as I contemplated such a life-altering decision. I kept putting it off, held captive by the echoes of a life that used to have meaning. The routines I clung to were all that kept me going. But then, one fateful event made everything crystal clear. It started as an ordinary errand, heading to the supermarket to pick up a seasoning I needed, only to find it out of stock. I decided to drive a bit further to another store. After making my purchase, I stepped outside and that's when I spotted Vincent. He was supposed to be working. I stayed back, careful to stay out of sight, watching him closely. He looked nervous, glancing around, before he entered a building with a sign for a consumer finance company. The name seemed familiar, but I never expected him to be involved with it. A chill washed over me, like a bucket of cold water had been dumped on me. My body reacted instantly, but my mind remained eerily calm. Connecting the dots, it hit me, Vincent wasn't just failing to contribute financially to our household. He was now sinking into deep financial trouble behind my back. This revelation cleared up everything: our situation, our growing distance, and the lies that had been buried beneath the surface. The truth could no longer be ignored. Vincent had been borrowing money in secret. The weight of it all was suffocating. Realizing how much debt he had accumulated over time, that was the moment when I knew it was time to end this marriage. I could no longer envision a future with someone who had kept such important secrets from me. Any love I had left for him vanished in an instant. I waited for him that night, sitting in the living room, the decision weighing heavily on me. When he finally came in, I didn't hesitate. "Vincent, you're late," I said. He looked at me, startled. "What are you doing up so early? What's going on? Can I stay up?" I replied flatly. He dismissed me. "You're fine. You've been out all night, haven't you? If you're going to be sarcastic, keep it to yourself. I've been working hard, unlike you." "Right. I'm sorry," I muttered, feeling empty as the reality set in. I took a deep breath, then spoke. "I have something important to say. Let's get a divorce." Vincent froze, wide-eyed. "What? Why are you saying this out of nowhere?" "I've been thinking about it," I said, my voice steady. "You've been relying on me while giving so little in return. You barely support me as it is, and as a nurse, I've managed on my own before and I can do it again. If money is such an issue, then yes, divorce is the way forward." He stood there, stunned, then locked himself in the bedroom. The next day, he reluctantly took a day off to come with me to the lawyer. He signed the divorce papers with a loud thud on the desk. The whole process went by much smoother than I expected. Throughout, he muttered about regret, but I ignored him. Afterward, I moved back in with my parents. They welcomed me with open arms, offering me their full support. encouraging me to move forward. Grateful for their understanding, I began packing my things, ready to start fresh, free from the weight of a marriage that had become impossible. While sorting through my belongings, I decided to clean out my father-in-law's room one last time. As I went through his drawers, I discovered his will. I concealed my emotions, composed myself, and showed it to Vincent. To my surprise, his reaction was one of excitement. He ripped open the envelope and eagerly read through it, his eyes wide. But as he read further, his excitement turned to confusion, then shock. The will left several stocks, his father's assets, to me, along with a heartfelt letter of thanks. Vincent couldn't believe it. No, this can't be right. I'm his only son. I should inherit everything. I'm afraid the will says otherwise, I replied calmly. This is crazy. This can't be real, he stammered, but the signature was unmistakable. The shock was too much for him, and he fainted on the spot. I immediately called for an ambulance. As I watched the paramedics take him away, I realized how distant I had already become from him. There was no reason to delay my exit any longer, so I finished packing and left for my parents' home. Once settled, I reached out to a relative of Vincent's, one who had always been kind to me, to let her know about the divorce. She listened with growing concern as I explained everything. After I finished, she embraced me, but her unease was palpable. Then, in a quiet voice, she revealed that Vincent had a long history of gambling debt that had begun shortly after our marriage. His frequent visits to consumer finance companies had even become the subject of rumors in our community. Her revelation added further clarity, confirming that leaving him was the right decision. The knowledge that others had known about his financial troubles while I had remained oblivious made me feel even more isolated. Vincent had been lying to everyone, claiming he would quickly pay off his debts with the inheritance he was sure would come his way. It seemed like everyone had known about it except me. The rumors reached Vincent's father, prompting him to rewrite his will and intentionally exclude his son. It was likely a way of dealing with Vincent's misguided expectations and his reckless financial habits. Vincent, who had assumed that the inheritance would save him from his debts, was left devastated when it never came through. The realization hit him hard, and that's when he fainted. After a short hospital stay, Vincent was discharged, facing the cold reality of his debts and his life spiraling out of control. As for me, I settled back into my parents' home, took time to heal, and eventually returned to my nursing career. Being back in a profession I loved was rejuvenating. For now, I have no desire to think about marriage again. My focus is on my career, building a future that is stable and fulfilling. Returning to nursing not only restored my sense of purpose, but it also allowed me to rebuild my independence and prioritize my well-being. Thanks for watching, and see you again in the next video. Stay stunned.